Did you get any
I
time in on the mental health break?
Yeah. And listen, here's the deal,
Okay,
man.
good.
You said it's been a week since Saban retired, which means it's been 6 days since you said that nobody wanted the job. So, I mean, it seems like nobody wanted the job, which this has been to
Did I
watch.
say that verbatim that nobody wanted it? Did I say
I'll
that?
pull up the tweet if you want me to.
Okay,
Why
fair
does it
enough.
feel like
All right.
nobody
All
wants the
right.
job?
Okay.
Hey, listen, here's the deal. This is like a Georgia fan's wet dream right now, and it's hilarious to watch because I get it. Like I fully get it. Like everyone wants to watch Saban and Bama go down, and they haven't been able to on the field for 17 years. So it has been wild to watch because like we just haven't seen this kind of turnover. We haven't seen this kind of change. It's been the most stable program, and really, if you think about it too, it's a program that has like been the reason why so many other people have had to get new coaches. Like there's a reason why Clemson fired Tommy Bowden way back in 2008. Auburn's gone through like 5 head coaches in this time, or something like that, like or 3 or 4. I don't know what the total is. Arkansas, same thing. It's been wild to watch, but I just don't feel like the sky is falling. I just don't.
So let's get into that, Chris. The whirlwind again that was, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of last week culminates with Kalen DeBoer being hired. I'm sure again you're as close to Bama as any program out there. I'm sure you were not
Not anymore.
well. I'm sure you weren't totally shocked, is what I was going at. That Nick Saban, we knew it was coming.
Mhm.
It was going to be, I guess, kind of surprising or just, a monumental event, if you will, when it
Yeah.
did happen. Take me there. Take me the coaching search. How you feel about Kalen DeBoer? Again, the resume is fantastic. I
Yeah.
think it's a really good hire. I feel like most people feel that way. Like you mentioned, Georgia fans are having fun with it. There's a lot of other SEC fan bases, but
Yeah.
as you like to say, dance
Horny
very
person.
lightly
Yeah.
if you're going to dance on the grave. So just thoughts on like where your mind was at over the
Yeah.
last that 72-hour period, if you will, from Saban retiring to DeBoer being hired.
So I found out the LSU week in early November, early October that Saban was most likely going to retire. I just kind of thought they would skip once they got to the Rose Bowl and he didn't retire. I was like, well, maybe he'll run it back. And that was not the case. So I was it's like, it was awkward. Because I was texting back and forth with Kristen. She was on her way to Florida, about just this and that, and then all of a sudden the news broke, and it was like, "Is your dad retiring? Like, is this gonna happen?" And so it was wild. I mean, like, listen, it was like, I mean, good for him. Like, I'm first and foremost thinking about Saban, like, incredibly grateful for the time he spent there and what he did, putting that place in a better situation, just miles ahead of where it was when he got there. I remember last year at one point they went to Italy. Him and Miss Terry went to Italy, and they hadn't gone on a vacation in like 10 years. And like they went on vacation, and Bama fans were bitching about how he wasn't on the trail recruiting, and it was like, shut the fuck up, like let him let him live a little bit. So I'm happy. I'm happy that he gets to do all that. I'm happy that he gets to go be a granddad. I'm happy for all that. The whirlwind that happened afterwards, it was funny. I think Greg Byrne actually kind of nailed it. The Bama AD. He said it's like 24 hours in a coaching search is like 72, or I'm sorry, it's like a week, is what it feels like. And I think that made sense to me because it was like the reactions we were getting from people, and how quick. I mean, like nobody knows who they went after. That nobody knows that. We don't know they went after Lanning. They didn't go after Kiffin. We don't know if they went after Sark. We don't know what number choice Kalen DeBoer was. But if you ask me, I would have gone after Dan Lanning first. And so if you don't get Lanning, but you get the guy that beat him 3 times in 2 years, love that. Love that a lot. And here's the thing too. People aren't going to want to hear this, and I don't care how it sounds. I hope Kalen DeBoer is the long-term hire and he's there for forever and has tremendous success. Because I love the stability of it. And I want Bama to be successful. But if this is what we all kind of assume it was going to be, which is a stopgap hire because you don't want to be the guy replacing the guy, and if it's not going to work because of recruiting or whatever, or if you're on the Washington side of this, you're saying it's a stepping stone guy at a doing a stepping stone move to go to the NFL, right? And just so you know, Chris, now that we're full go on this and I'm awake from my nap, we can go 25 minutes. We don't have to do the 15 minutes.
Okay, fair
I'll
enough.
say it. The construction is fine. But like the thing with Washington fans is like it's a stepping stone thing. He's gonna go to the NFL. This is what he does. Well, if he does that, I just watched him go to Washington and take a team that won 4 games the year before, 7 the combined 2 years before he got there, and go combined 25-3, go 5-0 versus Sark and Lanning, and then get you to a national championship game. It's I guess what's wild to me is watching the what's the best way to put it? The outside noise that's being attached to it. Like he's just Brian Harsin. He's not. Everyone knows that. Anybody with a fucking brain knows he's not Brian Harsin. And I don't know about the recruiting because we haven't seen the recruiting yet. I don't know. But I think they got a really, really good coach. And if he's just a stopgap, give me the X's and O's guys for the 2 years, and then bring through a complete overhaul and start over with the recruiting and stuff like that.
Has any of the jubilation surprised you at all? I mean, was it expected? I mean, Auburn fans rolling Toomer's corner, that seemed aggressive. That seemed rather aggressive.
I mean, I don't I forgot about that. I mean, like, I'll tell you the funniest part of it is just personally was my girlfriend is an Auburn grad and she loves Auburn and hates Alabama, like hates Alabama.
Mm.
And when all this was happening, I knew that she knew that I was like upset. Like I was going through it that day. The mental health break thing was just, we should have never fucking said it. It's just the thought that I was going to have that break. But it was wild watching Auburn fans because I think the funniest part for me was like the only fan base that should be super happy about this is Georgia. They're the only one that's on Alabama's level remotely. They're the only one that has come close to beating Bama, and they were still 1-5 against Saban. Like I think they have the most to gain from this because they were the closest one at the top of the pecking order. Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin. I haven't seen Lane Kiffin stack seasons, and I don't know how, like maybe ever as a head coach. I mean, LSU. We already know how I feel about LSU stacking seasons. We haven't seen that. I haven't seen them beat Bama in back-to-back seasons in over like 15 years. Maybe that happens at some point. But like Auburn just being the fucking ultimate little brother, rolling Toomer's corner because they're so glad because in the same breath, they're so glad that their fucking daddy left, Nick Saban being 12-5 against this program. They're so glad that he left, but at the same time want to always tell you, oh, he never beat a 9-win Auburn team. We had the most wins against them. We had 5 wins against them in 17 years. And it's like, you can't be both. But with Auburn, it's always going to be both. It's always going to be, we fought until the end. We did our best. I'm so proud of them boys. It's fucking sportsmanship is gross.
So, Chris, I'm curious. You look at this staff that Kalen DeBoer has put together. Ryan Grubb is all terrible. Okay, terrible. Ryan Grubb at OC, Kane Womack at DC. One of the most notable, Travaris Robinson goes to Georgia. Was able to retain a couple of guys. I thought retaining the strength coach and I think the nutrition person, those were very underrated things. Anybody who's been around football, you know how important that is. Just thoughts on the staff that DeBoer has put together in your mind, because I think what's interesting, it's you got a couple of those Bama guys have stuck around, but it's a lot of outside flavor. Like it's Washington guys, it's South Alabama, it's what was it? The head coach of Buffalo is on the staff now. Like it's a lot of outside, like maybe not SEC tie guys, which, for a while that was blasphemous, where it just felt like it was the good old boy league where coaches were getting recycled and that still happens, obviously. But just thoughts on this staff that DeBoer has put together thus far.
Yeah, if they fucking bring in John Chavis, I'm still convinced that someday that they will just make an all-star team of like John Chavis, Mike Bobo, and Will Muschamp and just see where it goes. I don't know as much about the hires. I do know that South Alabama's head coach had them in the top 30 in every major statistical category. Total defense, rushing defense. I think they were like top 20, passing defense, scoring defense. I mean, they were 15th in the country in yards per game allowed, which is 2 spots ahead of Alabama, which, so that is something I think that like anybody that talks about the DC hire, I think has been like, this is a really, really good hire. I don't know shit about the head coach from Buffalo. No clue. No clue. I mean, maybe Travaris Robinson probably would have been a better hire, I would think, at the DC. I think that's fair to say. And let me go back to that in a second. Let me talk about the offense for a second. The Ryan Grubb thing is funny because Ryan Grubb's he interviewed at Bama a year ago for the OC position, and then he turned it down. And I remember it being a thing where it was like, dude, the Bama's not able to get their same coordinator hires they wanted in the past. And it was like, I remember sitting there thinking, I was like, man, he's returning like everybody at Washington. Why would he leave that? Like, and then come into this situation where he's under Nick Saban, he's going to be under a constant like scrutiny and speculation of what he should be doing and should not be doing. I thought it was a great move. They ended up getting him this year. I love the offensive stuff. I love the fact they got the offensive line coach, the Joe Moore Award. Anybody can sit here and talk about, pick out little specific things that are negative. I love to look at the full body of work. And if we're going to talk about sports, we're going to do it in fucking factual statements. So if you're talking about the offensive line, and I've seen a lot of people like, they were getting destroyed against Michigan. Well, I got news for you. Everyone got destroyed against Michigan. It was the best defense in the country. And just because they didn't play in the SEC does not mean it wasn't the best defense in the country. Let's be very clear about that. You can tell that I'm getting animated because my computer is shaking back and forth. So I love what they've done on the offensive side of the ball. Love the offensive line. And here's the other thing, too, the offensive line. It's not like it could get worse because at Bama, they had the worst offensive line from a sacks allowed standpoint. It's the most they've ever given them in program history. Did a bunch of real clean graphics on it. If you guys need them, I'll be happy to share. But then the defensive thing, here's the thing with Travaris Robinson. I would have loved to keep Travaris Robinson. I would have loved it. I think that he would have been a great hire. He would have been really good at recruiting and been helpful on the staff. That's me personally. Okay. And DGD is going to have a comment about this for sure. But like, here's the thing. Saban was, and Kirby has even alluded to this. Saban was doing interviews about the DC position on Wednesday, the day he retired. If Travaris Robinson was the answer defensive coordinator for Alabama when Saban was there, he probably would have been named the defensive coordinator when Saban was there. Or he would have gone to DeBoer and said, this is the guy you absolutely have to take. And in either way, I still think it's a better move for Travaris Robinson. Go be under this umbrella. This is not a negative thing about Georgia, but like go be under this umbrella of that defense is going to be stacked with elite talent no matter what. That defense is going to be under the puppet master of Kirby Smart no matter what. And you got Will Muschamp, and you got Glenn Schumann. You got all these people to help with you. That is the best group project defense you will ever see in college football, and it's going to get him a head coaching job. So I think it's a great move. They still have a couple other spots they gotta go after and get, but outside of the secondary, the defense has mainly stayed intact from the roster standpoint too, and that part is something I'm really excited about because you bring back actual leadership. And I tell you what, Deontay Lawson, Jihad Campbell, I did not know how I was going to feel about having a linebacker named Jihad, but it's been great. He has brought a holy war to Tennessee. You just watch that tape. But like, and then you talk about the defensive line and all the talent they have coming back there, all the 5-stars they come off the edge that haven't entered the portal or anything like that. I love the mentality that some of the senior leadership has had. It sucks to lose Caleb Downs. But I love Malachi Moore coming out with that video when he said he's coming back saying, if they ain't in crimson, fuck them. And that's the kind of attitude you have to take going into next year because now you get a chance to have this massive chip on your shoulder for Alabama for the first time in like 20 years. And that's something I feel like I'm excited about.
So, Chris, you brought up Caleb Downs. Let's get into that. Obviously, that drops this morning. I mean, the transfer portal as a whole, right? Once Saban retired, the 30-day window opened up. And, I mean, it's just been – open season on the Alabama roster. There's been decommitments left and right. What's it been like being a normal fan of college football and dealing with the portal and NIL? Nah, I'm kidding. Seriously,
no, that's fair.
The Caleb Downs thing. I've seen a lot of this stuff on social media from Bama fans about like talking about the portal and NIL and the negatives, and I'm like, this is new. Okay, this is new.
Yeah, and so I think let me speak on that first. I might just stand here for an hour and just talk sense into everybody. The whole thing, I can't wait for your last question, but let me get you out of here. I'm like, you know what? Let's do one more. Let's do another question. No, the Caleb Downs thing and Bama fans in general. they're a fan base. They're going to overreact. All fan bases do. I've listen. I have always said, like I said earlier, if we're going to talk about football, if we're going to talk about sports, we're going to do it with facts. That is not the case for most South. Bama fans are not a good fan base. It never has been. I've never said. There's Bama fans that hate the shit out of me because I've said they were going to lose games, and then they would lose games. Like, there's
You're Chris. You're preaching to the choir when it comes. Like I know firsthand,
yeah.
being a from the Gamecock side of things. Trust
You
me.
had to go into witness protection, start a whole new, even bigger brand.
Pretty much. I might be having a new name, all that very
Right.
soon.
Right. Yeah, the bearded beat is what we'll call from now on.
That's it.
No, I think, and you're doing a tremendous job of it. It's been awesome watching this thing take off.
I appreciate it.
But no, the thing with the fan base, it has been I get the outside part of it where people are just going to be mad and just be like I think people want to see this. I think Cruz Oxenrider posted this earlier. It's the best way to phrase it is, I mean, non-Bama fans are taking out 17 years of frustration on this fan base, and as they should. It's what you do as fans. The thing with the portal, it sucks. It really sucks. I don't want to say it's unfair because that's what's in place for everyone. But man, it's tough to look at this and be like, okay, anyone can come tamper with your players. And by the way, now they're legally allowed to tamper, right? Let's not pretend like they haven't been tampering the whole fucking time. That's been happening across college football. Like Kiffin's talked about it, Saban's talked about it, Kirby's talked about it. And I think that's the other point I'll make too, is those three guys especially, this would drive me crazy, which was Saban caught the most flack about it because it's Saban, but it was like, I can't believe they're complaining about this and they make millions and players should be able to do whatever they want. And it's like, you've rolled out this whole new process of how we're going to do things. The portal, NIL, all these things, right? And you've rolled it all out at once. And then you set no guardrails with it because the NCAA acted like a bunch of fucking bitches and came out here and was like, well, you know what? We're not going to profit as much money. We're going to take our ball and go home. See you later. Fuck, this is all still the NCAA's fault. And I will always die on that hill. But like all of that happens. And there's like all these new things that aren't like being regulated at all. So there's also a difference between, hey, this is not okay. This is like, these are some issues we're having with the portal versus complaining. I think that the coaches have done a really good job at that, saying like, hey, these are the issues that are actual issues that we need to address, that need to be fixed, because it's plain as fucking day that there are a ton of issues with the portal. I'm not saying this is one of them, but like, this is a tough situation to be in, to watch, to have that roster be one of the best rosters in all of college football and be like, okay, listen, for the next 30 days, like it's like playing dodgeball. And it's like, hey, we're not going to give you a ball, but you can go stand in the corner and just hope no one is able to shoot you. You got to duck, dive, dip, duck, and dodge, or what the fuck ever. Like it's like that.
So, Chris, would you say Caleb Downs a Georgia lock? Is that fair?
No, I don't think he's going to Georgia. I think he's going to Ohio State.
Ohio State.
So people, this is the funny part for me about this too, and I could be wrong. But all of my Bama inside info is gone. All of my Bama inside info was gone the moment he announced his retirement. But I will tell you this: I do know I still have like people over at Georgia that are loving all of this, and even most of the logical ones don't think he's a lock. Should he go there over anywhere else? Probably so. But one thing about Caleb Downs that people forget about is his brother, I think, like something happened with his either recruitment or something with Kirby Smart, and his dad never let go of that. And his dad does not like Kirby Smart. And that is a very real thing. So Kirby Smart and the way he mishandled his older brother's, like I said, recruitment or playing time or whatever the fuck it was, I should know before saying it. But I do know that Caleb Downs' family, not a huge fan of Georgia. So Ohio State, and then I would say Texas are two teams to look out for. Again, I think he should go to Georgia. It makes the most sense for him for his future, the way he'll be coached up, and Travaris Robinson is also there. But I don't think it's the lock that people think it is.
Chris, I think it's fair to say what Nick Saban did at Alabama will never be replicated ever again. How much how much do Alabama fans have to shift their expectations now entering a new era. Because
Mhm.
I could see us getting to a point like 3 years down the road where I mean, it's the expectations. I mean, like you said, you never want to be the guy that follows the guy. So how can Caleb DeBoer succeed in the short term? I mean,
Yeah.
outside of the obvious, which is win a national championship. I mean, what should the expectations be moving forward to be holding up the standard, but also being kind of realistic for the first time in a while?
Yeah. Also, real quick, shout out to Carl Judkins in the comments for putting in the pronunciation guide to Tennessee's quarterback, Nico.
I have butchered that many times, so I'm not even confident saying it on air yet. I
Yeah,
gotta do more practice. I've
that's
butchered
fair.
that so much.
Maleva, I think is what I think. I don't know. Now I fucked it up, and he even helped us out with a training wheels on it. Um, I think that the expectations, if you're Bama, it's tough because you still have that roster, regardless of everyone they're losing. You still have a very loaded roster. You're bringing in a very, very good recruiting class. And here's the thing too. Like the night is always darkest for the dawn, right? Like
Mm.
if they get Ryan Williams, the receiver who would be the fifth overall, I think, ranked prospect in program history, start build. You just need something. You need it to stop and start building off something, right? Like that's what you're looking for. The expectations, it's tough because now you've expanded the playoff to the most teams that would be invited in the entire history of it. So it's like, can you get into the top 12? You should be.
Mhm.
But I look at that schedule and it's like, oh man, you open with Georgia. You have to go on the road at OU before you play Auburn. They get Auburn at home though. They've won that game by an average of over 20 points at home in the last 6 games there. I think the one that I think is a loss more than any of them, Chris, is that like because Vegas already updated the line last week about the Georgia game. Have you seen this for Georgia
I
Bama?
have not. I have not.
2.5. Georgia's favored by 2.5. That is shocking to me. And if you're able to put a substantial amount of money on it, do it. Um, but the one that seems like it's a foregone conclusion as being a loss is that Tennessee game in Knoxville. I think that's going to be a really really tough game.
Mhm.
Um, but I think can you get to 10-2? Here's the thing too, man. Can you get to 10 wins and avoid Atlanta? I think you need to avoid getting to Atlanta unless you're playing Georgia, 'cause that's a fucking lock to win that game. But if you can avoid Atlanta and sneak into like a 10, 11, 12 seed type thing, and I think that would go a long way because this SEC championship game in the next couple of years is going to really, really be devalued in the way the playoff system is set up. So I think that is what like the expectations. Like I don't know if they're going to be able to shift the expectations. It would maybe I'm just too logical. It makes too much sense to me to not shift the expectations. Like I don't think I said it the other day on your Instagram. Like no one thinks this guy's going to be Nick Saban. No one thinks that. Um, should you win 10 games? Like the only thing that I think he has set himself up poorly with is his previous success.
Mhm.
He's had so much success at Washington in this early year, in his initial years. I think that's what should be the expectation. He won 11 years in season one at Washington. That wasn't in the SEC, but he got him to a natty in year two in a 14-0 season. Um, I think the expectation still needs to be getting to the playoff. It doesn't necessarily need to be winning a national championship every year, but if you've got 12 teams, you should still be Alabama and still be able to try to get to the playoff every year. That is going to be something. If they're competing for a spot in his first year, that's fine. By year two, he needs to be in the playoff.
Chris, let's move to SEC basketball. Does Nate
Ugh.
Oats hate kids? Is that
Absolutely should have been called for a penalty last night about that. I think my favorite part was watching Bama fans and it like them. So I saw multiple people saying like, "I can't believe there shouldn't have been a flag on this." I'm like, "Well, there's no flags at all in college basketball, so that's nice." But watching Auburn fans,
Mm.
that was my favorite part because he shouldn't have done it. He should. Nate Oates is not a likable person, I think, to anybody outside of Tuscaloosa, and I totally understand why. Um, but I also will say that he shouldn't have put his hands on another player. I don't know what was going on. That game got chippy real fast, and there was multiple technicals called in the second half. Um, you know, love him or hate him, I think I'll, fuck it. Hold on. I'll just say this. I drafted this last night and didn't say it, but now that we're on SEC Unfiltered, I feel like I can say it.
Perfect spot.
That whole thing about Auburn fans getting mad about Nate Oats pushing another player. Um, Auburn fans, they want to be mad because a coach shoved a player away from his bench, but don't want to be mad about the fact their head football coach made a middle school child undress in front of them. So maybe that's what Hugh Freeze should have done. I don't know. There you go.
You'll get a kick out of this too, Marler, for the first time, right? I've obviously been in plenty of riffs with Gamecock Nation previously, but got my first ever riff with Auburn folks this week.
How was it?
It was fun. It was fun. Honestly, man, Gamecock Nation has prepared me for anything and everything I feel like that any other SEC fan base can throw at me. Now, I say that, and I'm sure that I'll be proven wrong, but man, I'll be surprised if I'm proven wrong. But either way, it was fun. It was fun. Auburn fans are passionate. What was funny, though, and I learned a lesson here. I'll take partly some blame. We dropped these SEC power rankings. They're my SEC power rankings.
Yeah.
We're obviously adding contributors. So someone else, a contributor, wrote an article saying, hey, Auburn's not the best team in the SEC. I had them number one in my power rankings. Just said, hey, they've been crushing 9 straight double-digit wins. Why not? We'll give them the boost. So there was some confusion there. So that was on me, but it was funny to watch. It was a day in which, like, half of the fan base was like, yeah, and then half the fan base was like, I'm never interacting with this account ever.
The whole thing with Auburn fans is that they genuinely have this idea that they have a better moral compass and value system than anyone else, and it's the wildest fucking thing to watch, because I think they're the best fans in the SEC. I think they might be the best fans in the country, and that's not just because I'm dating one, but because they are. You cannot hold Auburn fans down. Remember the movie The Hangover?
I do, yes.
Okay, there's a line from The Hangover I always use when I talk about Auburn fans, and it's the line where Ed Helms, the guy who's missing the tooth, Andy from The Office, looks at Zach Galifianakis and he says something, and he goes, "Thank you," and he goes, "You are literally too stupid to insult." That is how I feel about Auburn fans, and I mean it in the best way. Like, they are. You cannot say anything that's going to bring them down. You lost 4th and 31. How did you guys even get into 4th and 31 against a 6-loss team? Like it is. They will spin everything into a positive, and it's something that's very admirable about that program.
Chris Marler, Saturday Down South, Saturday Football Uncensored. Chris, are you a baseball guy at all? I know you played, obviously, but like when it comes to following SEC baseball, all I was going to say, hey, Bama preseason ranked top 20. So
are they? Nice.
Might make some noise. Baseball. Might make some noise. So I know
I will watch SEC
it's tough to
baseball.
follow. It's a lot.
Oh, my bad. I watch SEC baseball. I love watching Wake Forest last year. I don't give a shit about Alabama baseball because they didn't recruit me. So,
hey, fair enough. I get that. Chris, always a pleasure, my friend. I appreciate you, and we'll do it again next week.
Sounds good, brother.